The millionaire slept with her on their honeymoon, without knowing she was a virgin, and that night would change everything. Everyone believed she was lucky. Marrying a billionaire at 23. Living in a mansion bigger than the orphanage she grew up in. Waking up in silk sheets instead of cold convent floors. But no one asked how she became his wife. And no one imagined that on their wedding night, the man who treated marriage like a business deal would unknowingly take the only thing she had ever guarded and walk away without looking back. She didn't scream. She didn't beg. She didn't accuse. She simply lay there staring at the ceiling, not knowing that a single night of cruelty was about to plant the seed of a truth that would one day bring a powerful man to his knees. The girl no one thought mattered. Clara had learned early in life that silence kept you safe. She grew up in Santa Lucia orphanage, raised by nuns who taught her discipline, humility, and sacrifice. She never owned expensive clothes, never attended parties, never learned how to flirt. Her world was prayers at dawn, chores at dusk, and a quiet belief that kindness mattered, even when the world didn't return it. So when Mother Aurora told her she had been chosen, Clara didn't feel special. She felt afraid. "The orphanage is in debt," the old woman said softly. "If we don't pay, the children will be turned out onto the streets." Clara listened as the solution unfolded. A marriage contract. A powerful family name. A billionaire heir who needed a wife, only on paper. "You don't have to love him," Mother Aurora whispered. "You only have to endure." Clara agreed, because she had always endured. The man who bought a wife. Elijah Montclair didn't believe in love. He believed in leverage. At 34 he controlled hotels, banks, shipping companies, and politicians. His grandfather's will was the only thing he hadn't conquered. Marry before 35, or lose everything. So he did what he did best. He bought a solution. When Clara walked into the hotel suite on their wedding night, Elijah barely looked at her. She wore a simple white dress, her hair pinned neatly, her hands folded like she was afraid of touching anything. Not a woman. A transaction. "You can sleep on the couch if you want," she whispered. Elijah laughed, sharp, humorless. "I didn't pay millions to sleep alone." He crossed the room, lifted her chin, studied her face like an object he'd just acquired. "You'll do." The night that should never have happened. Clara had never been kissed, never held, never wanted. So when his lips touched hers, her body reacted before her mind could understand. Her hands trembled. Her breath caught. Confusion mixed with fear. She whispered for him to wait. He didn't hear it, or didn't want to. When pain flickered across her face, when tears welled in her eyes, Elijah finally froze. Realization hit him too late. He murmured. But even then, he didn't stop. Afterward, he dressed in silence. No apology. No comfort. No explanation. He left. Clara stayed. The sheets told the story her voice never would. The aftermath no one saw. Morning light revealed what the night stole. Clara felt hollow. Her body ached. Her chest felt crushed by shame she didn't understand. She pressed her palm to her stomach, not knowing why, and stared out the window. She didn't cry. She learned long ago that crying changed nothing. Days passed. Elijah avoided her. Staff treated her like a ghost. She ate alone, walked alone, slept alone. 6 weeks later, the sickness began. The truth that shattered her world. The doctor's voice was calm. "Congratulations, Mrs. Montclair. You're pregnant." The word echoed like a sentence. Pregnant. By a man who barely acknowledged her existence. In a marriage that was never meant to be real. That night she told him. Elijah didn't ask how she felt. He asked only one thing. "How do I know it's mine?" That question broke something in her forever. He questioned her pregnancy in public, not knowing the quiet woman he shamed held a power that could destroy him. Elijah Montclair thought humiliation would silence her. He believed money erased consequences. That power rewrote morality. That a woman without a family, a past, or a voice could be bent into obedience. So when he questioned her pregnancy in front of others, he expected tears. What he didn't expect was the stillness in her eyes. The kind of calm that doesn't come from weakness, but from someone who has already survived worse. And while Elijah believed he was breaking her, the truth was far more dangerous. He was waking something that had been buried for decades. The public disrespect. The Montclair Foundation Gala was meant to celebrate Elijah's success. Crystal chandeliers. Politicians. Executives who laughed too loudly at his jokes. Clara stood beside him in a pale blue dress, simple, modest, and intentionally overlooked. She had learned that invisibility was safer. Until someone congratulated Elijah. "I hear you're going to be a father." The room went quiet. Elijah smiled, but it was cold. "That hasn't been confirmed." Every head turned to Clara. She felt the weight of their stares like stones pressing against her chest. "You see," Elijah continued smoothly, "mistakes happen. And I prefer evidence before accepting responsibility." A ripple of awkward laughter followed. Clara said nothing. But inside something cracked, not loudly, not dramatically. Silently. Irreversibly. The woman who never defended herself. Back at the mansion, Clara retreated into solitude. She didn't argue. Didn't plead. Didn't ask for fairness. That worried the staff. Women like her usually begged. Clara prayed. She placed her hand over her stomach every night, whispering promises to a child who hadn't asked to be born into cruelty. "I will protect you," she murmured. "Even if it costs me everything." The man who watched everything. Tomas had guarded the Montclair family for over 20 years. He had seen greed, cruelty, secrets buried beneath wealth. But Clara disturbed him. Not because she was fragile, but because she wasn't. She reminded him of someone. Someone he had failed once. And he wouldn't fail again. When Elijah ordered him to monitor Clara more closely, Tomas obeyed, but not for the reasons Elijah believed. The scandal that should have destroyed her. 2 weeks later, headlines exploded. Billionaire heir questions paternity of unborn child. Photos showed Clara entering a clinic. Speculation spread like fire. Mistress. Gold digger. Trap. Elijah said nothing to stop it. That silence did more damage than words. But something strange happened. Clara didn't disappear. She walked into the Montclair boardroom the next morning, alone. Men stopped talking. She stood at the head of the table. "I will be attending future meetings," she said calmly. "As the mother of a Montclair heir." Laughter followed. Until Tomas closed the doors. Art. The first crack in Elijah's armor. That night, Elijah confronted Tomas. "You're overstepping." Tomas didn't flinch. "You're repeating your father's mistakes." That name hit like a blade. Elijah's jaw tightened. "Don't talk about him. Then don't become him." Silence stretched between them. "For the record," Tomas added quietly, "she was a virgin." Elijah froze. The memory slammed into him. Her pain. Her tears. Her silence. For the first time, guilt clawed its way past his defenses. But it was already too late. The name that changed everything. Days later, Elijah found the bracelet. Hidden in an old family safe. Silver. Delicate. Engraved with a name. Eva. The same scent rose from it. The same one that clung to Clara's skin. A memory he had buried tried to surface. A convent. A woman cast out. A child taken away. And suddenly, the impossible connection began to form. The truth waiting in the shadows. Clara overheard the argument. Eva. Convent. Pregnant. Her breath caught. The timeline matched. The place matched. And the truth whispered something terrifying. Her past was not random. Her marriage was not coincidence. And Elijah Montclair had no idea that the woman he publicly shamed was standing at the center of a secret that could dismantle his entire empire. He finally discovered who she really was, and realized the woman he destroyed was the one who could end him. Elijah Montclair had spent his entire life believing one thing. Power protected him. Money erased sins. Silence buried mistakes. And the past, no matter how ugly, could always be bought. But the night he learned who Clara truly was, he understood something far more terrifying. Some truths don't ask for permission to surface. And some women don't rise screaming. They rise quietly, with evidence. The secret he couldn't ignore anymore. Sleep abandoned Elijah. The scent haunted him. Every hallway. Every room. Every breath. It was the same scent from his childhood nightmares, the one memory he had locked away because it carried too much guilt. Eva. His sister. The girl his father had disowned. The woman erased from family records. The pregnant young woman sent away to a convent so the Montclair name would remain pure. Elijah had been only 10 years old when she disappeared. He had never known what happened to the baby. Until now. The confrontation. Elijah stormed into his father's old study and summoned Tomas. "You knew," Elijah said, voice shaking. "You've known all along." Tomas didn't deny it. "I hoped you'd figure it out before you destroyed her." Elijah's chest tightened. "Clara, she is Eva's daughter." The words landed like a gunshot. Elijah staggered back, gripping the desk. "That's impossible." "She was born at Santa Lucia Orphanage," Tomas continued calmly. Your sister died shortly after childbirth. The convent raised the child in secrecy, at your father's request. Elijah's mind spun. The marriage clause. The convent's debt. The sudden appearance of Clara in his life. This hadn't been fate. It had been manipulation. By his own bloodline. The weight of his sins. Elijah collapsed into his chair. He had taken advantage of her. Humiliated her publicly. Questioned her dignity. And she had endured it in silence. Just like her mother had. I did this, he whispered. Yes, Tomas replied. And now you must decide whether you end the cycle, or repeat it. The woman who stopped being invisible. Clara felt the shift before anyone told her. Staff behavior changed. Whispers followed her, not cruel this time but cautious. When Elijah asked to speak with her privately, she didn't tremble. She sat, composed, unafraid. You know, he said quietly. Yes, Clara replied. I've always known. The truth stunned him. My mother left me letters, she continued. She wrote about her brother, her father, her exile. She met his eyes. And about you. The moment karma turned. Elijah expected rage. Instead, Clara's voice was steady. You questioned my child. You shamed me. You treated me like I was nothing. She stood. But I won't raise my child in silence. That same week, Clara did something no one expected. She attended the Montclair board meeting and presented documents, legal papers, birth records, trust clauses hidden in the original will. The room erupted, because the forgotten granddaughter of Eva Montclair was the true beneficiary of a massive portion of the estate. Elijah's empire didn't collapse. It shifted. Public reckoning. News broke within hours. Billionaire's wife revealed as heir. Hidden family truth exposed. The same media that mocked her now praised her restraint. Elijah stood beside her at the press conference, but for the first time he wasn't the center. She was. And she spoke only one sentence. Respect should never require proof. The man brought to his knees. That night Elijah knelt. Not as a billionaire. Not as a husband. But as a man stripped of arrogance. I don't deserve forgiveness, he said. But I will spend my life earning it. Clara listened. She didn't answer immediately. Because power had finally changed hands. She forgave him, but only after justice was served. Everyone expected Clara to choose revenge. The world was watching now. The media waited for scandal. The powerful expected her to destroy the man who had humiliated her. After all, she could. She held the truth. She held the legacy. She held the future of the Montclair name in her hands. But what Clara chose instead was something far more devastating than punishment. She chose justice. The woman who refused to become what hurt her. Clara moved into her new role quietly. No grand speeches. No dramatic takeovers. She reviewed contracts. Redirected funds. Shut down projects that exploited workers and revived those that supported orphanages, shelters, and clinics, especially Santa Lucia. People noticed. Employees who once feared Elijah now respected her. Because she listened. She remembered names. She asked questions. She treated everyone, from janitors to executives, with the same calm dignity. Power hadn't hardened her. It had revealed who she already was. The price Elijah had to pay. Elijah resigned as CEO within 30 days. Not because he was forced. Because he understood something for the first time in his life. Leadership without integrity was hollow. He transferred control to a board Clara oversaw, but never dominated. He moved out of the master wing. He stopped appearing in public without her consent. For the first time he followed instead of commanded. And that humility cost him more than money ever could. The moment of truth. One evening Clara found Elijah in the nursery, unfinished, quiet, filled with soft light. He stood frozen, staring at the small crib. I don't deserve to be here, he said. Clara rested a hand on her belly. No, she replied. You don't. The words didn't come with anger. They came with honesty. But my child deserves a father who learns, she continued. Not one who hides. Elijah nodded, tears finally breaking through pride that had lasted decades. I will never question your worth again, he whispered. Or our child's. The final act of karma. Months later, Elijah stood before the same elite audience that once laughed at Clara. This time he spoke. I was raised to believe power excused cruelty, he said. I was wrong. He publicly acknowledged his actions. His silence. His shame. And then he stepped aside, permanently. The applause wasn't for him. It was for her. The birth that changed everything. When the baby was born, Clara held her child and felt something she had never known before. Belonging. Not to a family name. Not to an empire. But to herself. Elijah stood nearby, not as an owner, not as a savior, but as someone finally learning respect. The legacy she chose. Years later, people would speak of the Montclair transformation. They would say a woman changed everything. But Clara knew the truth. She didn't change the world. She simply refused to let it change her.